Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Queen's Lair. I am your host, Kelly Miles, and we are in the month of May. And so, our topic today is going to be talking about communication breakdowns and barriers between mothers and daughters, which, of course, is appropriate because in the month of May, Mother's Day falls in the month of May. So, we have some amazing ladies that are going to join us today and talk about this topic. So, let me bring them on right now. Hello, ladies.
Hey,
How are you guys doing?
great. How are
Undefeated.
you?
Good. So, yes, I'm excited about talking about this topic. I think all of us have different ways of, communicating and talking about the barriers that happen between and the breakdowns between mothers and daughters. But before we get ready to jump into the conversation, I'm going to ask you ladies just to introduce who you are and what you do and where you're from. So we just know the audience knows who we have on the line today. So we'll start with you, Miss Gladys. Tell us who you are and a little bit about yourself.
Okay. My name's Gladys Brown. I live in Birmingham, Alabama, and I'm a Christian. I teach new members class at my church, and I have a wonderful daughter, Sarissa, and a precious granddaughter, Darcel. And so that's me.
Thank you. And so let's go to you, Sarissa.
Okay, well, I am Sarissa A. Brown. I am Gladys's daughter and the mother of that precious granddaughter, Darcel. Um, I am a 2021 mayoral candidate here in Birmingham, Alabama, where I live. I did not win, but I made a change. I am a mental health advocate and a community organizer, and I have recently just formed a nonprofit on March the 3rd by the name of Reese's Reach, which helps Black and Brown women with mental health issues and women experiencing homelessness.
And that's beautiful. I love that. And I think mental health is a topic that needs to be further discussed,
Mhm.
but that's for another time. But it's definitely a great cause. So let's go to you, Annette. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yes, my name is Annette Thomas. I am a proud wife, mother, and grandmother. Um, Vocational wise, I am an engagement specialist at Hilton, and I'm also a certified life coach, Christian life coach,
Mhm.
and which I take great pride and joy in doing that. I also use those skills as a member of VSM at my church. It's Victory Stevens Ministry, where we walk alongside people that are going through any type of loss. So that's a little few tidbits about my life.
I love that. Yes. And it's a good ministry to be able to help people who are at a loss because when you go through a grief period, you don't know how long grief lasts. Everybody has a different period of time for when grief lasts. And sometimes people don't always really want to go to to pay to go to a strict counselor. So
Mhm.
having a ministry that reaches out to those individuals is awesome. So I love that. Um, so thank you, ladies, for sharing who you are. So now let's talk a little bit about the communication breakdown between mothers and daughters. And of course, we know that everybody has a different way of communicating. So what does it mean to you guys to have a communication breakdown? What does that mean, or what does that look like? And we'll start with you. Go ahead, Annette. You can start first.
Oh, I was going to say I have the gift of gab, so I didn't want to go first, but I would say unrealistic expectations and assumptions. I
Mm,
think when we do that, that could be the catalyst that starts that whole communication breakdown with our daughters. Not to mention when we want to be heard more than listen.
yeah.
As moms, I think that's something we all need to work on or can improve upon to do more listening
Yeah.
than talking.
Yeah. Miss Gladys, you wanted to tell what you think?
Yes, I think communication breakdown also is sometimes it can be miscommunication. You're saying one thing to a person, and the way that you're saying it, they perceive it as something else. It's like, in your delivery comes off wrong, and so it's like right then it's like, there's a big misunderstanding and miscommunication. That's what I think.
Yeah, and I think that's great because I always say that a message sent is not always
Yes,
the message received. So
right,
it's like you might be trying to convey a certain message, but the other person on the receiving end may not be receiving it or
right,
understanding it the way that you're sending it. So that's yeah, I think that's a lot of miscommunication with
Yeah.
relationships in general. Really, I
right.
mean, we're talking about mothers and daughters right now, but that is definitely a big thing for relationships as a whole. What about you, Sarissa?
With me, just thinking about my relationships and just personally, is that I am seeking an answer or it is something I am trying to get you to say. Some people say I speak in riddles. So I'm not clear because I'm scared of that rejection that you might say no, you might say something I don't like. So I'm going around in circles and it ends up in frustration and an argument, basically, because I just don't clearly just say what I want.
Yeah.
I'm
And
asking you.
I think one for me, I remember times when I used to get really frustrated with my mom because she would, get very angry and frustrated and upset because of something I did or said. And I'm looking at her like, why are you acting like that? It's not that serious. It's not that deep. But that was her way of communicating that
Right,
she loved me
right,
Mhm.
and she
right,
didn't want me to go down a certain path because she could see, but there was a communication barrier because to me I felt like, oh, you attacking me, oh, you just
Right.
coming at me wrong, and I'm trying to tell you what I want to do. And have you guys ever experienced that where somebody is trying to give you a message and because they care but you don't understand it that way, or vice versa?
it's like for myself, it's like I'm guilty of doing those things, like with Sarissa, like when she was growing up, and even now in her adulthood, I see myself doing different things or saying different things,
Mhm.
but I'm trying to look out for her best. And but it's like also it's like I have to ask myself, like today when I was thinking about this communication breakdown, is it a lot of time, is it because of me? Things that she may do or don't do, is that really a perception of myself that I don't want
Mm.
anybody to see? It's like, and
Mm,
so that's what I've been thinking about today
Mm.
as far as myself. And so
yeah.
it's like, conveying things to her, but really it's like it's me that I'm conveying to her. I don't want her to be like what the things that I have, mistakes that I have made and things that I've done.
Mm,
Amen. Can I add to that? You just
mm-hmm.
had me think of something. How my daughter Destiny. A lot of people say, and I say it too, that she's my mini me.
Mm,
Mm-hmm.
And I used to mean that in an endearing way, but now it's like I don't want her to be a mini me.
right,
I want her to
right,
be better than me. And
right,
sometimes I think our communication as she's gotten older and as a young adult is I have to remember she's not me.
right,
Yeah.
And she's her own person.
right,
And I need to not look at her as little Destiny, the mini me when it was
right,
cute, when she was small. She's a young woman now and she has
right.
her own mind and her own convictions and everything. And I think I have to constantly remind myself that I want her to be better than me,
Mhm.
not equal to just fly.
Right,
Do
right,
just soar. Live your life and not be when she makes the same mistakes that I make. Help her understand that it's a lesson. We're going to make this a lesson, something you're going to learn from this mistake, and not kind of just come down on her like I don't want you to
right,
do what I
right.
did. So yeah.
Did you want to add to that, Sarissa?
I did. With my daughter, Darcel, I see that a lot. First of all, I don't think my mom was really a yeller, but the older women in my generation were yellers, more so like, not like they were cussing us out or anything, but girl, go sit your butt down. Some
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
way I became that type of person, it got to me. But Darcel is more words hurt and you have to deliver
Mm-hmm.
it in a certain way. And I was not the best of best kid. I was, I had my phase.
She wasn't.
I had her at 20, so it's a lot of stuff that I didn't want Darcel to do because I did not want Darcel, just what you were saying, to go down the path that
Mhm.
I was going down. But so my communication was so harsh because I was like, you can't be like me because that
Yeah.
was terrible.
Yes.
You
It was
forced it
so
on them.
harsh, and we're working on trying to heal from that now because, when she was a kid, I guess it's scary to tell your mama, nah, I don't like the way you're talking to me. But now, almost 23, she's like, nah, we're not going to do that. And so you're going to communicate with me in a different way. But I just had an example with that with my mother. She doesn't mind me sharing. We have a lot of people that are addicts and alcoholics in our family.
Mm-hmm.
And I do drink, but I come from a family of the women did not drink. Mm-hmm. And so, like, I guess they're like, where the heck did she come from? Mm-hmm. So I've been stressed, and lately I've been having one glass of wine, a night. And right now I'm here with her, like staying with her. And so to my mom, and from where she comes from, my child has turned into an alcoholic. And so last night we actually had miscommunication. We had a big blow up because she was like, you can't just be drinking like that. You're an addict. I'm worried about you. But you see that worry, and it turned into an argument. But we talked, we texted first, and then we talked and communicated and worked it out, which we've come a long ways. But it's just like that goes back to not wanting a certain thing from your child,
right?
Thing, and that you're afraid of.
Yeah. Go ahead. You want to say something?
Yeah, and I was going to say, I think for us mothers, well, you're a mom too, and when you see your child going down that road, the mom in you, that protective mama bear, just comes out. And I think for us, we have to learn how to have an effective way of communicating that's specific for that child. Like for me, I have one daughter and two sons, and all three of them are different. Like I cannot effectively communicate with Destiny the same way I do with her brothers. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. And I think if we try to focus more on, okay, how can we communicate effectively without hurting each other to get to the root of all of this?
Right.
So I'm there. I'm trying. We're trying together.
And I think it's pretty interesting too, because, going back to what you said, Annette, as far as, we sometimes make them our mini-me's, our kids, and we want them to do what we do. And effectively, we're having a completely different person with a completely different set of personality and understanding. And we can't expect. And that's where we have them expectations, because we're expecting them to respond and to behave a certain way based on who we are. And we have to learn to respect those differences and respect and learn how to communicate in the way that they understand in order for us to have an effective relationship. And not only that, but I think that we also have to learn to respect where each person's place is. We have to learn to respect our elders and continue to have that respect because of where they are. And then the elders have to respect where we are because there's difference there, a generational difference there. So I think that is one of, the things that is good to kind of look at and understanding. So people don't communicate the same way we do. And sometimes assuming that people already know what you want or already understand what's going on is another means of a communication barrier. So let's talk about that. And before we do, though, because I know we want to get into this quick video I want to share that talks a little bit about the communication barriers and things like that. So let's take a quick break. We're going to watch this quick video, and then we'll come back to talk a little bit about that assumption as well as comment on the video. So we'll be right back.
I am super tight with my mom. Shout out to my mommy. And I wouldn't have it any other way. But sometimes mothers and daughters can butt heads. And boy, can it get ugly. Well, according to an article in counselingtoday.org, the root of the rift between mothers and daughters is based on a societal expectation. You're expected to see eye to eye when you're actually two different people. So ladies, what do you think is behind this DNA drama?
I don't know if I agree with that. I've never felt society pressure women to see eye to eye with your mother and your daughter. Like, is that true?
Thank you so much for coming back. Hopefully you guys got a chance to see that quick video. You are watching The Queen's Lair. I am your host, Kelly Miles, and we're talking about the communication breakdown and barrier between mothers and daughters. And so we just saw a quick video where it was from The View. I'm sorry, not The View. It was The Real. It was from The Real. So we just saw this quick video from the Real, and they were saying that the communication breakdown comes from societal expectations. So I want to ask you ladies, do you agree with that?
I would say to a certain extent, depending on the generation, because I do believe that there are some assumptions that we make and expectations. That there were my two key words: expectations and assumptions. And I think we go down that rabbit hole, and it makes a difficult situation more difficult when we assume things. And even when you're talking, I think we need to use open-ended questions to make sure we're clearly understanding what the person said. You know, just okay, just so I'm sure, sweetheart, is this what you meant? Like, I hurt you by whatever I said or did? Because if we may think we're saying it in love, but we can't judge how that other person is feeling and how they perceive it.
Yeah.
You know, so I think we do assume, as I'm going to speak for myself as a mother, I assume sometimes that my daughter gets it. Like, you understand what I'm saying. You understand that I'm doing all this for the betterment of you and your life and your destiny and purpose and all of that. And she may see it totally different.
Yeah, and that's true. That is so true. What do you ladies think? Do you think that the societal expectations has a impact on the communication barriers and breakdowns?
I had never thought of that before. I was kind of like, that's Tamara, right? How Tamara responded. But listening to it, you know, I can see that. With my mom and I, we're totally different. But, you know, I don't know what we have done, but people see us as one person. So, like, if they invite her to something, automatically they think I'm coming. If they say something, and she agrees, they think I agree. And it's like, I don't know what has happened. Even my daughter, she will say, you guys have done this. I'm like, we're like a married couple. Like, she's her and I'm me. So it's something to that. And I got to research that more. That's
me too. Yeah.
Yeah, I get the same thing. Like, every time you and your mom said this, and I actually had a disagreement with my brother the other day, and he was like, well, you and mommy. I said, wait a minute, my name is Kelly.
Yes.
I said, my name is Kelly, and I don't know what conversations you had with somebody else on another day, but I wasn't part of that conversation. So, but I get it. It's like they mesh you into one, and it's like, no. But what do you think, Miss Gladys? Tell me what you think about that expectation, the societal expectations.
I don't know. It's like society now, because as each generation changes, society changes also. And so I'm not so sure about that expectation. I think, like, depending on what generation that was in a certain society, if that makes any kind of sense. Like, I think, like, based on like my generation and where we were at that time, it's like there's a certain type of expectation. Like Sarissa, her generation, where she has different expectations for Darcel. Like, it's certain things that I expect of Sarissa, these expectations that I have, but it's based on from when I was raised and how I was grown, the things that I was taught. And so I don't know whether I agree with that now. As far as I don't think I agree with that.
Okay. Yeah, I do. I agree with what you're saying, though, is that, you know, it can be different based on the generation that you're coming from. Yeah.
And even the environment. You know what I mean? Like in church, when my daughter when we were at Siloam for 20 years, they think because I don't have a problem talking in public and just, she's the same way. And she's not. She's outgoing, but in a different way. So when they look at us together, they're like, oh, she can do it because she's your daughter, or vice versa. Your mom can do it because that's your mom. So I guess it depends on the environment as well.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times too, when, you know, they kind of have you added together and married together, so to speak, it's based on a core set of beliefs that you do agree on. You know, so like if we're having a biblical conversation, well, the conversation that me and my mom are going to have, or the opinions we're going to have, is going to be based on biblical things. So naturally, we're going to sound similar in our conversation when we're talking to someone, even if we're not talking at the same time or the same day, because we're coming off of that same foundation. But it doesn't necessarily mean that we do things the same. It doesn't mean that, you know, we just have that particular core thing that we communicate on is the same, because it's a similar belief system. And most likely anyone else who's a sister in Christ that might follow
Right.
those same precepts and principles are going to probably sound the same way we do.
Right.
That's a
Mhm.
good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So talking about some of the communication things that is also a barrier is sometimes people, and many of us do this to our kids, and I'm not like this because I didn't like it when it was done to me as a child. So I kind of did it different, which is communicating on a need to know basis. So a lot of times when we tell our kids, you got to do this and you got to do that, and that's it. Why? Because I said so. You know, and I agree that to some extent we do need to have those rules where you respect the authority and you do what you're told, because that's what you're supposed to do.
Mhm.
But I do think at some level that there are some moments and times when we do need to expand and expound on and give a little more detail and explanation. So what do you ladies think about, you know, sharing with your kids on a need to know basis, and you know, still having that respect level as an adult, but also sharing some stuff with them that they need to know?
Now,
Oh,
I think,
okay.
go.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Now this, you just told me to go ahead.
Yes.
Well, when I was growing up, it was totally different. That's how it was when I was growing up. It's like, you know, children are seen and not heard. It's like, you know, you do what I tell you to do, and we just obeyed. And we didn't know anything like we grew up poor, but we didn't know that we were poor. Like, you know, we had food to eat, different things like that, but we didn't know. That's just like how it was in like, you know, in our household. But when I had Sarissa, it's like I was gonna make it a little different. I think that children, they shouldn't know everything that's going on. Some things that they don't need to know. Like if you're struggling or whatever, with whatever, it's like that's for you. You're an adult. You're supposed to take care of your children. But I think there are some things that you should share with your children. Like when I divorced Sarissa's dad, it's like, man, well, we were poor when I was married to him, but we were poor, like, you know, me raising my girls. And
Yeah.
so it's like we struggled. They knew that we didn't have much, but it's like years later, it's like, you know, Sarissa found my journals. She said, "Can I have your journals?" I was like, "Yeah." She was blown away. She didn't know that I really struggled to take care of them. I would journal, like, you know, crying like about my struggles, begging God to provide for us. But those are some things that they didn't need to know, because they didn't need to have fear. They didn't need to grow up fearful of where we're going to get our next meals. So I think that there's some things that children needs to know, and you need to share with them to be real. But it's like it's some things that it's like, you know, they don't need to know. So some
Yeah.
things are as need to know basis.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And mine was so she took hers and added a little more to what her mom did different. So I was the person that said every single thing my mom did when she raised me was wrong. So I'm gonna do it all different. So first of all, you know, I said I had my daughter when I was 20, and so that's my only friend in the house. So I told her everything about everything. And there was no secrets. She knew everything. She got anxiety from worrying, just like too much. And you know, like when I started getting older, you like actually maturing and getting my adult brain, I was like, "Oh, you messed up." You know, it's like when my mom says, "Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater." Like I was like, I could have kept some. Not everything my mama did was bad. Now, okay, I see why she did that. And so that was something that I did that I regret. And just recently, she hasn't told me yet, but I don't think she'll watch this. But she told my mother that I wish my mom had been more like a mom than my friend. I
Yeah.
needed a mom. And so and that broke my heart, And so I wish that I had also protected. If you didn't need to know this, like, why scare you? If I lost, my job and I'm struggling and I might have to apply for food stamps, you don't need to know that. You know, you don't eat. So that's all that matters, So I have some regrets. I did it.
I went too far with it. On the other hand.
Yeah. Yeah. What are you thinking, Nat?
I was going to say I can relate to both sides, because I'm somewhere in the middle where I try to share enough to let them understand the situation, because we went through times of struggle as well, but also remind them of our faith and that God's going to provide, and kind of use it as a teaching time.
Yes.
And as my daughter's older, now I'm sharing a little more with her. And sometimes she's like, really? What? I'm like, yeah, this. So I think you have to gauge how much, when to say it, when not to say it. It's such a delicate balance. And all I can say is we do the best we know how with what we have.
Yes.
That's all we can do. Don't give yourself grace. Give yourself grace.
And I agree with that, Annette. It's like there's been so many times for me, that's just like I wrestled with that. Like, looking at Sarissa, like raising Darcel, and then looking back at the struggles that I had, I beat myself up. And so what it's like, I finally had to tell myself, I did the best that I could with the knowledge that I had at that time.
And you as well, your daughter, because she tried her best in trying to do it differently,
right?
Out of the love for your daughter, and you did the best that you knew how with what you were thinking and how you were loving. So,
yeah. And I agree. Especially like what you said, Sarissa, where some of the things that our parents do when we're younger, we take that information and we take those experiences and we look at it and we say, well, I don't like what this made me feel like, and I don't like what this did. And we don't understand, because as kids, we don't have that level of understanding and communication with our parents, why they're doing things the way that they're doing, even though they're doing it the best way they thought. Now we're taking on that individuality and saying, all right, well, this is what I think. And then it backfires on us, because my thing was my mom was a drill sergeant. She was like, don't hug me, just get work done. And so for me, I did the complete opposite. And so I'm like, oh, I love you. I'm giving you hugs and kisses. And then as my son, because I don't have any daughters, I have sons, but my son, he started to, he was one of those children where he needed that drill sergeant, but I overloved him.
Yes.
And so he tried to take advantage of me. He broke my heart. I was sad. And I'm wondering, that structure and organization is what he actually needed.
Right.
The complete opposite, because I wanted to love and hug him. And so then I had to go back and, like you said, Sarissa, pick it up and say, okay, now I got to learn how to be a drill sergeant. But it was a balance that I needed, because, my mom used to tell me, chew the meat and spit out the bone. There are core pieces that our parents do for us that we get, that we need to take to keep, with ourselves. And so there's so much more that we can talk about. And I want you guys to just, we're coming close to the end of this discussion right now for the show. So I want you guys, thank you ladies so much for joining us and coming and sharing these nuggets of knowledge and this experience that will hopefully help someone else. So we're getting ready to close out the show. Thank you so much, ladies, for jumping on.
Thank you for
having us. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. All right. So we are at the end of the show. Thank you guys for watching. If you want to hear more of this conversation, please make sure you check out the after show. You want to check out, because the conversation is going to continue on. So check out the after show. Also stay tuned for our next episode, which is going to be in June. We're going to be talking about single fathers. So make sure you tune in. Check out our YouTube page right here. You can check out the YouTube page so that you can see the after show and other episodes if you haven't had a chance to watch them. So stay tuned. Thank you so much. And we will talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching The Queen's Lair. Stay tuned for the next episode.